Hi guys, welcome to another video. So, my sun sign's Pisces, so I'm quite excited to talk about them in this video. But yeah, obviously I'm finally getting to the end of this series now. It's been going quite a while, I guess. This series where I'm just describing in detail the character traits of each zodiac sign. So today I'm doing it for Pisces. Okay, so I'm really excited to get into this. I'll just do a disclaimer. This is going to be a very long video because I have a lot to say because I know a lot about the Pisces sign because that is my sun sign. And my Mercury placement in my chart is also Pisces. So I have a lot of Piscean energy. So I'll just put a disclaimer in now. This video is going to be quite a long one. I know all my videos are long, but this will probably be the longest one that I've done. But obviously you'll know that by clicking on this video, so I don't really know why I'm saying that, but I just thought I would anyway. So yeah, anyway. So Pisces, they are the mutable mode for the water element sign in astrology. So the first thing that I could say about Pisces then is I'm actually really excited to get into this one. So okay, so Pisces, they're a dual personality, and I guess to an extent you could say that all of the mutable signs have this kind of dual personality because they are changing a lot. They're almost like chameleons to the environment and the surroundings that they're in. But especially pronounced in that sense, I would say, is the Gemini and then also the Pisces. So, okay, yeah, Pisces, they're a dual personality, and this is represented in their glyph, their traditional, you know, sign logo, if you like. I don't know exactly what you call it, but obviously they are two fishes and they're swimming in opposite directions, but they are connected together with this cord, which indicates that obviously they're stuck with each other, they're connected together in the same person. But there are two fishes swimming in different directions, highlighting the Pisces sort of want to be moving in two different directions all the time, but of course they're both sides are opposite, but they're at the same time still both connected to each other, obviously. So, they are the last sign of the zodiac, so they are the most evolved soul in a certain sense. Because of that, they are the oldest soul, technically. They kind of represent the end of life, they represent the 12th house, which has all these spiritual sort of themes. So, they can therefore be considered to have a bit of the character traits of every other sign that came before it, all combined into one personality. And I don't know for certain, coming from me as a Pisces, I don't know for certain if I think Pisces truly has a bit of every other sign within their personality, but they certainly do have a bit of most signs, I would say, within their personality. Um, I see a bit of each sign's character traits in my personality sometimes, I think. Of course, not all at the same time, but I can identify traits, main sort of traits of most signs coming out now and again within my personality. And then, of course, they have their unique and their own individual personality themselves that they throw into that too. And when all of this all combines, it becomes the entire Pisces personality as a whole. So, in a real world example, they represent the whole ocean. And I have also heard it said in certain sources that Cancer kind of represents ponds, shallow bodies of water. Scorpio is like rivers, lakes, things that connect to the wider expanse of ocean. And then Pisces is the whole ocean. It is that said wider expanse of ocean in its entirety. It represents the Pisces. And they do represent a tsunami when they're angry. And the reason I say that, now, bear in mind, obviously, all these real world examples, I always just use them for my own sort of understanding of each sign so that I can kind of get a better grasp in more of a real world example of what their character traits kind of are. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily right, I'm just saying that these are real world examples that I have sort of used to understand them better myself. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there. But yeah, I kind of think they're a tsunami because they're similar to Cancer in the sense that the water is moving, it's constantly in motion, it's not still like the Scorpio. Um, they are constantly moving, but because the Cancer is the cardinal water sign, they don't always have this water present. Pisces, like Scorpio, they do have this water present all the time, But unlike the Scorpio, it is moving. It's not static because it's mutable. And because it's also mutable, it's moving in all different directions at the same time. It's backing up on itself. It's throwing around everywhere. And, it's dynamic, it's causing destruction everywhere, it's going everywhere. So I liken it to a tsunami, the Pisces, because it's like a Cancer is more like a flood in that it's moving in one sort of direction. Now, of course, water, by its very nature, it's going to flow and it's going to move in different directions, but all I'm trying to get at is that they are moving more one way, sort of. Whereas a tsunami, instead of it being like one flood, it's like obviously the huge tidal wave, the main base tidal wave, that floods like the seaside resort or whatever it is that's near this water at the time of the tsunami. But then there's also little secondary waves that break off from the main wave, and then of course they form like little mini floods from the main wave structure, and then they go in all different directions. So it's like there could be the main wave, and then there's like 10 mini floods that break off of that main wave. Rather than like it being one big flood, it's like 10 small little floods, and then it's combined with the major tidal wave. And then that all adds together to be the tsunami. So that's how I'm trying to describe character of Pisces as a real world example of what their water kind of is. They are also kind of light and breezy because they are the mutable mode, so I guess you could say they're almost like steam. They're almost like water in a gaseous sort of form, I guess you could say. I like to think of a tsunami more. They're also kind of like ripples in water. Like, say you're in a bath and you're just sitting in the water, that's more Scorpio when they're in a happy, contented state, liquid water. Um, and then Cancer's like when you turn the tap on, and the water's obviously coming out the tap. I feel like Pisces is more like when you're kicking your legs under the water while you're in the bath, and obviously it's causing ripples and the water's moving in all different directions as ripples and bubbles and all that. That's another Pisces thing, when they're obviously less angry than a tsunami. Tsunami is like the worst case scenario, like you've really pissed them off, that sort of thing. Anyway, yeah. So this will take quite a while, but I wanted to try and touch on the intuition, the water intuition, because as I said in the other videos, if you watch them, the other water sign videos, water has this sense of intuition. Now, I do also want to say, I think fire has this too, actually. They also have a sense of intuition and gut reactions, almost like a psychic ability, whereas earth and air are much more logically inclined. Because fire and water are more emotionally inclined, they kind of have more of an intuition. They listen to their gut, which is another way of describing an intuition. But fire is very emotionally reactive, I would say. And they are action orientated. Like they know what action to take in their life in order to get the most efficient results for them. Water intuition is much more internal. It's much stronger. It's almost literally psychic in its intensity level. It's very, very strong. But I do want to touch on the differences between that intuition and all three of them. Of course, all the water signs will have water intuition, obviously, but they are presented in slightly different ways. So, first thing is Cancer. Now, Cancer, similar in a sense to fire intuition, it's used in a personal way and it's emotionally reactive. Now, Cancer, they are the crab, obviously, the crab representative. So they are very sort of self-protective. They want to coordinate this water and throw it out to the world, but at the same time, they also want to retreat under their little shell. They're shy, they're nervous, emotionally vulnerable in a sense, so they build a fortress over their own heart for their own protection, like I explained in the Cancer video in more detail. So, because of that, they're emotionally reactive, and they're kind of personally emotional. Like, they can use their intuition to know how a certain situation will make them feel before they've even done it. It's very strange. It's almost like Cancer can, and I'm a Cancer rising, so I definitely have this Cancer intuition, the Cancer spin on the water intuition. It's more personal to them and not to other people. It's not selfish, but they are also the youngest, therefore the least evolved water sign, so in their soul evolution. So the Cancer's kind of like they use this intuition for a very sort of personal thing, a personal sort of end result that they want to achieve. And it's emotionally reactive, so they know exactly who to avoid, what people to avoid or not open up to in order to protect their fragile heart, their fragile emotions, and they stay in their shell more with certain people based on how that person makes them feel, which, as that hopefully makes sense. Um, they can predict also if an argument is going to happen, if something is going to go wrong in their immediate environment. they can predict it well in advance, and they can know how a certain situation will make them feel before they've ever even experienced it. So it's almost like, say they've been fired, if they've never actually been in that situation, they still know what they would feel like, or maybe even react like, if they were in that situation. But it's not from prior personal experience, it's just knowing their character deeply and knowing how that would react to that specific environmental situation and how they would react in response to it. And it's not guessing, it's a bit more accurate than guessing, definitely. um and they can predict it, especially with like their close friend circle. They know everyone's character very well, so they know if something's about to kick off. Like if an argument is about to go down, they know very well in advance, and they can use this knowledge to actively mediate the situation, stop the conflict, or run away quite literally, or completely just stay out of it. They know, or just peacefully calm everyone down. They know how to do that. Now, Scorpio then. So I do have less Scorpio in me than the other water signs, so I guess I don't know their intuition quite as well, but I do still have a bit of Scorpio in my chart. But I feel like Scorpio is aware of relational emotions, so they're more emotions of the other person. They are the states of soul evolution in astrology, which is the social states. Cancer is the survival stage, and Pisces is the spiritual stage, the universal stage. So, because Scorpio is the social or the relationship stage, they are more about the other person. It's almost like typical psychic abilities is Scorpio's intuition. They are literally mind readers. They know exactly what you're thinking, exactly how you might react to a certain thing that they might say to you. They know exactly, they've got it all planned out in their head. They know exactly how you might react. They know what you're thinking in the if you've not told them anything, or you're even trying to hide it quite well, they will see right through it. Even still, they will know exactly what you're thinking. Um, they're literally a mind reader. So that sort of interest in Scorpio. They're aware of relational emotions. They're less about their own emotions, definitely, than Cancer. They're more the emotions of another person. Pisces, then, obviously, this is what I want to talk more about because this is this video topic, obviously. So Pisces intuition is more universally orientated. It's toward the world at large, how the whole world is feeling. And it's quite confusing and complex to say because Pisces is a very mysterious, confusing sign in general. We are very sort of we have this love for humanity. It's deep and it's heartfelt and it's genuine, but it is about they kind of know the whole world. So say something's going on in the world which is not great, they know how this is going to rub off on the mental state and the emotional state of individual members of humanity, but they don't have to know that person to know that it's going to affect them. Like, say, I don't know this, but it's more on a broad scale. It's a very broad perspective. They see the bigger picture, they don't see the details. It's more like Sagittarius in a sense. They see, and Aquarius, they see this very broad perspective. They do not focus on details. So Pisces intuition is almost like they know how a situation that's negative will affect the world in general and how people will be disturbed mentally and emotionally as a result of this situation. And on a more sort of confined personal level, it's almost like a Pisces, they will walk into a room. Cancer does this too, but they'll walk into a room, they will know the mood, they will know the atmosphere of the room immediately before anyone has opened their mouth and said anything. Pisces already knows exactly the mood of the situation. They can guess if there's been, say, an argument before they've come into the room, even if they haven't heard an argument going on. There's this tension in the air. They can feel it quite. It's almost like a literal thing. They can literally touch the tension in the air and know that something's wrong. Um, Yes, they are an emotional sponge for their environment. That's how I like to put it. They are an emotional sponge for any environment and every environment they find themselves in. But it's also people on an individual level as well, in more of a Scorpio way. So they can read your mind like that too. But they are more on a grander scale. It's more about the whole world rather than just one person in like an intimate relationship, which is much more Scorpio. Pisces is more like they know the whole world. They know what the whole world is thinking on an emotional level. Now, the downside of Pisces is they are not at all logical. And yeah, it's even worse if your moon is Pisces because it's what you are at your inner core. As I have said multiple times before, it's like your sun is kind of what you're striving to be in this lifetime. Like, you're going to act like your sun because that's where your personality and your ego is tied up with. But your moon is what you already are. You don't need to try to be your moon because you already are your moon deep down in your core of your soul. But you're not that with your sun. You need to actually become your sun as you mature throughout your life, and you strive to act like your sun. But the moon, that's what you already are, so it's more on a deeper internal level. So moon Pisces especially, they're not at all logical, but when it comes to emotional things and intuitive aspects of life and spiritual aspects of life, they have it down. They have so much knowledge on those specific parts of life, but logically and more in the real world, that's where their logic is not so great. Now, Pisces, the whole theme to the Pisces sign, they are very enlightened and they're very sort of spiritually connected. Like, I'm not necessarily saying religious. Now, a lot of Pisces will identify this feeling and use it as a religious belief that they're very passionately strong about, like they're going to believe their religious beliefs very passionately. But the ninth house in astrology is more religion, which is actually Sagittarius. So it's more like Pisces is the 12th house, so they're more spiritual. And I feel like there's a difference between confining your beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, into one set religion, and just having this belief that there's something after death and there's something that's more than this physical material world that we're living in at the moment in our lives. Of course, the awareness that there's something after that is spiritual, and I would say that that is different to being religious, because religious, you believe in a system of beliefs, a set, spiritual system of beliefs. But spirituality without a defined religion, it's more like you just believe everything that's spiritual versus believing the spiritual matters that your personal religion tells you to believe. And Pisces is more like they believe everything spiritual because they kind of pretty much because they just believe in spirituality. It's not confined to one religion's idea of spirituality and life after death. It's literally any possibility of any sort of life after this material world, any sort of life after death. Pisces is what they represent because it's the 12th house energy. So they are very spiritually connected, but not necessarily religious. A lot of them are very religious and passionate, like ministers at churches, religious leaders, but that's kind of more assertive religious leader sort of mentality is actually Piscean, but it's more Sagittarian because obviously they're a fire sign. They have this more assertive, aggressive sort of thing. Pisces is more like a chilled, laid back sort of energy, and it's just like they have this deep spiritual belief, but it's almost like it's not even a belief for Pisces. It's more like an awareness. Like they know for a fact in their heart that there was something after death, and it's not just this material world we're living in. They believe that your physical body is not as important. It's just the vehicle that carries your soul, and your soul is really who you are and the seat of your personality. That's what Pisces believes. It's like they don't believe it, they know it. It's really strange. They are very mysterious. We are very mysterious. Um, so yeah, I hope I explained that pretty well. It's not necessarily religion. Now Pisces then, so they're ruled by two different planets like Scorpio and Aquarius signs. So they're ruled by Jupiter as a mild co-ruler, which they share with Sagittarius. So this mild Jupiter rulership, this adds an optimistic and lucky approach to the life of Pisces. So Pisces and Sagittarius are the most lucky zodiac signs in life normally because they have this positive planet, this planet Jupiter, which expands and magnifies everything, including happy emotions, which comes into their optimism as a ruler. So, similar to the high optimism of Sagittarius, Pisces is not as optimistic as Sagittarius because they're water, not fire, and water can be more depressing than fire, because they're kind of, I don't know, they're watery. Water is not as optimistic as fire, but they are the most optimistic water sign by far. Now, Jupiter is actually exalted, in other words, strengthened in the sign of Cancer. So Cancer also has this strong Jupiter presence, but they're not ruled by Jupiter. But they exalt Jupiter, so they can have a positive, optimistic side to them. But I feel like because they're actually ruled by the moon, they have a lot of moon swings, which kind of detracts somewhat from that optimistic perspective. So I feel like Pisces is definitely the most optimistic of the three water signs. Scorpio is definitely the least, but Pisces is definitely the most happy, the most optimistic. And also, Pisces is definitely the most chilled out and relaxed of the water signs. I feel like Pisces is the least grounded. They're the most dreamy of the three water signs. They're the least practical, the least realistic, the least detail orientated, but they are the most chilled and they're kind of the most relaxing to hang around with because they're not so serious. Um, but their major planetary ruler is Neptune, and Neptune does have more of an influence on Pisces character traits than Jupiter does, but they do still have both, as I say. Neptune equals this deep love and compassion for every living creature in the world, which clearly is Piscean themes. But Neptune on the negative side, it does also equal lies and deception. And this universal awareness, as I said, spiritual sort of awareness, but um, yes, it equals lies and deception, Neptune. So, not that Pisces are liars, not that they deceive consciously, but similar to the other water signs, actually, you've got the moon ruling Cancer and Pluto as the major ruler of Scorpio, and Neptune as the major ruler of Pisces. It's like all three of those planets, the water planets, they have this sort of mist, they have this fog to them, and they're all different fogs for each aforementioned ruler planet that I just stated right now. It's like the moon fog is different to the Pluto fog to the Neptune fog. Neptune has probably the densest, thickest fog, but it's not fog in a sort of secretive, deceptive sort of negative way like Pluto is with rulership over Scorpio. It's not so much about hell, death, the underworld, suffering. Neptune's more happy, lighter, that sort of thing. But it is, whereas Pluto's more about just keeping things hidden and self restrained. Neptune's more about literally lying and completely changing people's perception, pulling the wool over their eyes. It's Neptune's mist is very um deceptive and it hides things. Like if you think of mist and fog, you cannot see clearly through mist and fog. So that's the whole theme of Neptune. Um, there is in the Pisces sign, there's a certain rejection of logic and details, and I think that this is because one, Mercury is fallen in their sign and detrimented or debilitated, whatever you want to say. So they don't actually think logically very well. As I said, they have this amazing wisdom and knowledge when it comes to spiritual and emotional matters, but logically they're not so good. They do not care in the slightest about details. Of course, they're opposite to Virgo, and the opposition is that Virgo is very focused in the material plane, the material aspects of life, logic and mental processes as well, analytical mindset, analytical thinking, observing other people, criticizing other people, very grounded to earth. Pisces is the opposition, so they're opposite to that. Pisces does not care about analysing other people. They don't care about the material world. They're not grounded at all. They're always aware of the fairies. They're always dreaming, always imagining. That's sort of the base of their opposition. It's like be of service to others through practical gestures and service in that sense, which is Virgo, versus be of service to others in a spiritual or emotional sense, which is Pisces. Now, Pisces, they can be vulnerable, they can be delusional, they're very ungrounded, and they're also gullible. So it's easy to prank them, it's easy to deceive them. They deceive other people easily without even realizing, but it's easy to deceive them as well because they're not logical. You could throw a million red flags in their face telling them, stop speaking to this person, they're walking all over you, they're taking advantage of your kind nature. Throw 100 sort of red flags, they will ignore all of them and go, no, this person is beautiful, I love this person, they love me just as much as I love them. And they clearly don't, but the Pisces just does not notice any of these warning signs. Now, Mars. Pisces is not a great placement for your Mars, so if you have Mars in Pisces, there's no direct interaction, so there's no weakening or strengthening. It's a neutral placement for Mars. But if you think Mars is a fire planet and it rules Aries, so it's a bit of a washout in Pisces, you've got to admit. So Mars in Pisces, you're not going to have that much energy. It's quite a low energy sign. You're going to be quite lazy. You're going to feel tired quite often because you're always pursuing daydreaming, dreaming, spiritual sort of beliefs in that sense. Although you're going to have much more energy than Cancer, and you're going to be much less static, much more movable than Cancer. And I say that because Cancer is where Mars is fallen, in other words, dead. But Pisces, there's no interaction with Mars other than the fact it's a water sign. So Pisces is a lot more energetic than Cancer. They're a lot more movable and less static too. But obviously, Scorpio is ruled by Mars actually as a mild co-ruler. So Scorpio is full of energy, and Pisces really isn't. So it's a lot less than Scorpio, but it is more than Cancer. Um, Now, I feel like Pisces is a bit more open about emotions than Cancer and Scorpio. They wear their heart on their sleeve. They cannot hide how they feel at all. It's blatantly obvious how Pisces feels, even if they try to hide it, which they normally don't because they want to have this universal acceptance of people and love. So they see no point in hiding how they feel, and they get confused when other people hide how they feel too. But yeah, so they are normally wearing their heart on their sleeve, so they do not hide how they feel, unlike Cancer and Scorpio, actually. And compared to Cancer, because Pisces has a slightly stronger Mars placement too, they are more assertive and confident as well than Cancer. Cancer can be the most low in self-esteem of the water signs. Pisces, especially with their creative endeavors, they're quite confident. Like, they know that they're a creative genius, and they're not as doubtful of themselves, I would say, as Cancer, because the Pisces is they have a stronger Mars. They can be more aggressive and they can be more assertive than Cancer, but at the same time, they hate arguments and conflict, and they will never start arguments or conflict. Well, they will eventually, but it's not something they want to do. So, because of that, they can be passive aggressive. Again, not as bad as Cancer, because they are more stronger with Mars than Cancer is. So it's like they are more likely to instigate a conflict than Cancer is. Cancer is very, very passive aggressive. Um, Libra too, if we're talking about an air sign, but Pisces is a bit more assertive and aggressive. They're a bit more willing to go to your face and start an argument if they really need to, but they still can be more passive aggressive than directly aggressive because they do still hate conflict and arguments. They are very humanitarian too, and the quickest surefire way to piss off a Pisces is to be selfish and to not care about humanity at large. And if you do that openly in front of a Pisces, they will be so mad. That is the quickest way to piss us off. I can speak from experience with that. Um, if you're not going to sign petitions to be nice to people or, stop injustice happening, if someone's been murdered for no good reason and it's a petition saying, get this person arrested or whatever, get the case reopened, if you do not care about signing that or donating or even spreading the word about something like that, Pisces will be so mad at you because they care so much about that. And they would never, ever not give the time of day, give some time out of their life to help people like that and help humanity like that. So when other people refuse to do it, they get confused and they get so angry about that. Surefire way to piss us off. Another thing about Pisces, they are less clingy and maternal than Cancer. Now, Cancer is the mother archetype of the zodiac, and then Capricorn as their opposition is the father archetype of the zodiac. Pisces obviously isn't, so Cancer is very maternal, very motherly, protective when you're close with them. They're very clingy. And Pisces, they're less clingy, they're less maternal than Cancer, but they are also less moody than Cancer because they're not ruled by the moon. So Cancer, as the moon goes through all of its moon phases, it's going to vastly affect Cancer and it's going to affect their mood. So the mood swings, especially on a full moon and a new moon, are going to be really overly exaggerated with Cancer. However, Pisces doesn't have the moon ruling them, so they don't have that influence of mood swings. Cancer's not like that. Cancer is less clingy and maternal. Pisces, sorry, is not like that. But Pisces is much more accepting and non-judgmental than Cancer because they are so chill and free-spirited. Now, however, Pisces, it's easier for them to be hurt emotionally because they have no protective mechanism to guard their heart and its emotions. Cancer has their shell, they retreat when they're not comfortable. Scorpio has the stinger. Pisces has no protective mechanism because they're fierce. So, they have no protection. So, technically, they're the easiest water sign to hurt emotionally. Um, Now, okay, so personal chart placements, you could have Pisces in then. So Pisces rising. Now, it's quite a rare rising to have, but if you have it, you're going to look on the outside looking in to other people, you're going to look incredibly dreamy and eccentric. But not like Aquarius rising eccentricity, which is going to be very logical. It's going to be very accepting, tolerant, non judgmental, but it will also be with an emotional focus and an intimate relationship focus, rather than Aquarius won't have that. Now Venus then. Venus is exalted in Pisces, in other words, strengthened. So this is a very nurturing and very romantic placement. Very, very positive for marriage and intimate relationships. It's a very, very nurturing, romantic placement. You're going to be very stereotypically romantic. You're going to probably be pretty clingy with your lover. You're going to be emotionally demanding, but you're going to have this universal love, and it's going to be awesome. Commitment might be a bit hard for you because you are a water sign who is mutable, so you do want to be adapting constantly. But the fact that Venus is so strong probably will pretty much offset that mostly. Mercury, though, in Pisces, Mercury is detrimented, in other words, debilitated, weakened, and also fallen, dead at the same time in Pisces. So this adds up. Mercury hates being in Pisces. My personal birth chart has Mercury in Pisces, not great. Plus, I think it's retrograded on the time I was born, too. But it's fallen, so there could be some possible issues with communication and practicality if that's your placement. Your words are going to be very, very gentle. It's going to be like my voice because I do have Mercury Pisces. Communication is going to be very gentle. It's going to be very considerate of other people's emotions for the most part. It's not going to want to offend anyone. It's going to be conflict avoidant, risk averse, a bit shy, that sort of thing. Now, the sun in Pisces, obviously you're going to embody all these Piscean traits. It's going to be more shallow because it's not going to be the moon, which is more on your deeper internal level. Now, the sun Pisces, therefore, is going to be more assertive and it strives actively in its life to be Piscean and embody these Piscean traits. It's not really that at its core. It is more assertive, more aggressive. Moon Pisces, it's this at its core, so it's more emotional than the Sun Pisces, less proactive to change the world than the Sun Pisces. It's more gullible, easier to scam them because they're just a stronger version of this Pisces personality. The deeper personality, therefore they're also more delicate, they're easily wounded emotions and lack of emotional grounding. So they're going to be deeply easy to offend, and they won't show you this. They'll look to be strong, depending obviously on what their sun sign is. But if their moon is Pisces, they are going to hold true with this in some way or another, or some extent or severity or whatever. More moon Pisces is going to be very, very emotional, gullible, deeper personality. It's more delicate, and it's easier to wound their emotions. Lack of emotional grounding is stronger too. But they are very compassionate. They have this universal love, very spiritual, very accepting of humanity, everyone in humanity. They have no prejudices at all. That's just how that is. So yeah, I enjoyed talking about Pisces. Um, that was the Pisces video. This is my series now, done. So now I need to think of a new series to do. I think it will be each opposition and explaining that in more detail, like the core of the oppositions. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Anyone who actually watched every video, you were awesome in this series. Thank you so much. But yeah, I liked how this series went. I enjoyed filming the videos, well, recording the videos. So yeah, thank you for listening to this. This is very long, I know. So thank you for sticking with it. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.